Now with Vice President Kamala Harris. Madam Vice President, thank you for joining us this morning.
Of course, George. It's good to be with you all.
That was quite a chamber last night. Your facial expressions gave some hint to what you were thinking of the response to President Biden. But what does it say about the prospect for bipartisanship?
I think that if you look at the track record, and I thought the president did a great job of pointing that out, together there was bipartisan support for the bipartisan infrastructure law, and because of that, roads and bridges are being refabbed and constructed around our country. In fact, since the president signed the bipartisan infrastructure law, 20,000 projects are underway. So, I think that there's a bit of what happens in that room, sadly, that it's about theatrics, but when you talk about the substantive work, I think we've seen some success in terms of bipartisan work. Look at what we did together. It was bipartisan in terms of dealing with gun safety laws, the first time in decades where we had any meaningful federal legislation in that regard. So the president, it's his nature and it's his commitment to the American people to work across the aisle. That's not going to stop, even if some people are cynical about it.
The problems aren't just inside that chamber, though. The president also facing a skeptical public. Majority don't think they're better off since he took office. The majority don't approve of the job he's doing.
Well, listen, there's no question, and again, the president spoke about this, and it's on his mind every day. People are still hurting in America. As he started his presentation last night, talking about the fact that we've come out of an historic pandemic, the economic crisis that resulted, supply chain crisis that resulted. You look at the cost of milk and eggs, it's about $4.25, I think, on average in the country. So, yeah, people are still hurting, and we still have work to do. I think the president was clear that the job is not done. We brought down the cost of insulin for seniors to $35 a month. We're bringing down the cost of medication on an annual basis for seniors so that they'll be capped at about $2,000 a year. We're dealing with what we need to do to bring down the cost of energy in terms of rebates. So a lot of good work has happened, but more work needs to be done. There's no doubt about that.
The president did not make a specific reference last night to that Chinese spy balloon. Can the confrontation with China be contained?
The president met with Xi Jinping in Bali, and then actually weeks later I had a brief meeting with him in Bangkok. We have been very clear directly with the Chinese leaders and with our own allies and partners around the world. We invite competition with China, but we do not seek conflict. We do not seek confrontation. What the president did most recently in terms of that balloon is consistent with our perspective and our commitment, which is we are prepared to compete, but at the same time, if there's any violation of our sovereignty, we're going to act. And that's what the president did, decisively.
The official Republican response last night from Governor Sanders of Arkansas, she said the choice before America right now is the choice between normal and crazy. Your reaction?
I didn't see the response, but I know what the president talks about. Instead of talking about, whatever the labels are, he's focused on, and we're focused on what we need to do for the American people. When you're talking about bringing down the cost of insulin $35 a month, ask any senior who is a diabetic, and I think they would tell you it's the right thing to do and it's not the crazy thing to do. When you talk about creating 12 million jobs, which is a historic number, I think most Americans, regardless of who they voted for, would say that's the right thing to do. When you're bringing down the costs of living and paying attention to the needs of working people and talking about the importance of the dignity of work, I think most working people in America, whatever party they're registered with, would say that's the kind of perspective I want from my leaders. And it's not crazy. In fact, it's long overdue.
Governor Sanders also made a point about the generational gulf. She's 40. President Biden just turned 80. Looks like he's gearing up for re-election, but a majority of Americans, a majority of Democrats, according to our new poll, say they don't want President Biden to run again. What do you say to them?
I mean, George, I think that age is more than a chronological fact, to be very frank with you. It's about thinking about whether we have in our leader, which we do in Joe Biden, somebody who is bold. I mean, think about it. What he has achieved in this presidency only 2 years in is historic in terms of the investment in infrastructure. We're going to remove lead from the pipes of America within the next 9 years. Children for generations and their families have been suffering dying because of the poisoning, lead poisoning. We're going to lay and make sure that people have broadband across our country, where we saw families that were driving up to the McDonald's to have access to the public Wi-Fi, and what that did in terms of creating educational gaps for people who should be able to have full capacity. So I think that what people want to know is, what have you done? And when you look at what President Biden has achieved, what our administration has achieved, not to mention foreign policy, something you care deeply about and have worked on, I think you will see that we have a very bold and vibrant president in Joe Biden.
Madam Vice President, thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.